Hi, I've just put together this recording to explain briefly what the Behaviour Change workshop is, and maybe more specifically to talk a little bit about what motivational interviewing is. I think behaviour change itself is fairly self-explanatory, but the Behaviour Change workshop looks at being able to measure people's stages of change, and this helps the trainer then in terms of figuring out where their clients are and what they need to do with the client to help them move forward to a point where behaviour change is going to become a lifestyle change. Now, the main component of the Behaviour Change workshop is based around the model for change by Prochaska and Di Clementi. And Prochaska and Di Clementi basically hypothesise that people go through different stages of change. And I'm sure a lot of trainers will be quite familiar with this, but you've got pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and then maintenance. Now, all those stages can be measured using psychometric testing, and I did this as part of my research, trained personal trainers how to deliver the tests, and then they tested their clients to figure out where they were in that hierarchy of the different stages. There are a number of other theories that sit under this and it's called the trans-theoretical model, and that brings together a number of theoretical models, including decisional balance from Janis and Mann, and they theorize that when people make decisions in life, they weigh up the pros and cons, and if your pros outweigh your cons, then you're able to make that change, and if your pros and cons are fairly even, then we would describe that as ambivalence. Ambivalence is an important state because for a client it means they're kind of just sitting on the fence, and they can kind of go either way. They can either increase their cons, in which case they definitely won't change, or they could increase their pros and lower their cons, and they're more likely to change. And motivational interviewing is a way of having a conversation with the client, if you like, but it's very directed and quite strategic in terms of helping them shift that ambivalence. But just to briefly come back to the stages of change, so I've talked about decisional balance. The other test or the other theory that sits under this is self-efficacy. Now, the person who's kind of the guru on self-efficacy is a guy called Bandura. And self-efficacy, you can kind of think of it as self-confidence. How much confidence have you got that you can lose weight, that you can complete your training program, that you can get to that fit body that you want, or that body fat percentage, or that level of achievement? And self-efficacy, we know from the theory and also from my research, it shows it, as self-efficacy increases, people move forward through the stages of change. So these things all tie together. And so we use the psychometric testing in the Behaviour Change workshop to measure firstly where a client is starting out from, and then as you train that client, as they work with you on your program and what have you, are they moving in the right direction? Now, up until a few years ago, there was a little bit of an ethical dilemma with this type of testing, because if you tested a client and decided, I'm not sure you're ready to change, in other words, you're either a pre-contemplator or a contemplator, so your pros and cons might be pretty even. In my research, I said to trainers, you have to screen those people out. You can't allow them to enter the program, because we knew that they would ultimately fail in a weight management program. Now, if we were going to adopt this and use it within the NHS, which is something I'm advocating, then you can't just turn around to people and say, well, I'm sorry, you're not ready to change, we're not going to deal with you. And so, as I say, that's what created the ethical dilemma. Now, that is now resolvable by using motivational interviewing. And motivational interviewing is a person-centered style of interviewing that respects a client's autonomy and respects the fact that really, ultimately, only the client can make that decision to make a change. And by using the various techniques that you learn within motivational interviewing, you can help the client get the kind of argument straight in their head, if you like, and find good reasons why they should change. And that, in kind of a nutshell, is what motivational interviewing is. It's not something you do on somebody, but it is more of a way of being with someone. It's a way of being yourself. And Bill Miller, one of the founders who I learnt from, and Stephen Rolnick, they talk about, are you, am I? And what they mean by that is, are you working in a way that's ethical, that is showing empathy for the client and is respecting their autonomy? MI is a really useful skill to learn because it will improve your communication with your client. Communication skills are critical to an outcome of any type of coaching, and MI teaches you possibly a new way of communicating in some respects. It certainly makes you a better listener. Bill Miller often refers to it as active listening, and it's a real skill to master. And one of his kind of pet phrases, if you like, is sometimes all people need is a good listening to. And by learning the skills associated with motivational interviewing, you can become that good listener and help people kind of resolve maybe some of the struggle that's going on at their subconscious and unconscious level in terms of making a lifestyle change. So that's a very brief overview of what motivational interviewing is, and also what we cover within the Behaviour Change workshop. It's based on my doctoral research, and in that I taught trainers how to deliver a weight management program, and that weight management program achieved about an 86% success rate. And what is more, we repeated that research in New Zealand with Maori and South Pacific Islanders and achieved very similar results. So it works cross-culturally. So the purpose of the Behaviour Change workshop is to give the trainers those skills needed to help their clients make a lifestyle behaviour change. And I hope that's made things just a little bit clearer. And I look forward to maybe seeing some of you on the workshop and working closely with you to develop your communication and your motivational interviewing skills. So for now, I'm going to sign off and bid you farewell. Thanks for listening, and catch up with you soon, hopefully.